Welcome back to another episode of r/slash I don't work here lady. Get ready for some laughs. We have some great stories to share with you. And make sure that if you like what you hear, that you comment at the end as well as subscribe because that definitely means a lot to us. And this next story is posted by u/Avistu. Some people just don't listen, I guess. This happened a few years ago. At the time, I usually ordered my groceries from a different store and had it delivered because I don't drive. But on the day in question, I was famished and tired from work and just wanted to make myself a sandwich and go to bed. In the kitchen, I realized I'm out of bread. My bad for not putting it on my list when I was running low, I guess. I decided to go not to my usual store, which is pretty far on foot, but to the local mart, which should be open for another half hour or so. The dress code was black dress pants, a blue button up shirt, black shoes, and a name tag with the employee's name and role. I was wearing a printed t shirt, cargo pants, and orange sneakers, and obviously no name tag. I was also munching on an apple because I was pretty hungry, which I expect employees don't usually do while on the clock. On my way to get my bread, I'm stopped by a middle aged couple. The husband asks me, "Excuse me, miss, do you know where we can find cleaning product?" I figure they think I know the store well or something, but as I said earlier, I don't usually shop there, and since I have my groceries delivered, I wouldn't know what aisle it was on anyway. So I tell them, "Sorry, I don't know. Maybe you can ask an employee." "Could you check in the back?" the husband asked, and for a second I froze, trying to understand what was going on because that made no sense as a response. Finally, I decided he probably hadn't listened past "sorry" and had invented the rest of the sentence. So I explained, "Sir, I don't work here, and they may have some on the shelves. I just don't know where that would be. I could get a store employee for you if you like." I know I had no obligation to help them, but I could see an employee further down the line behind them and figured I could flag her over and go back to my own shopping. The man sighed while his wife smiled at me sympathetically. "I'd like to speak to your manager, please." I have no idea what line he invented for me this time. I figured since he's not listening anyway, there's no point talking to him. I wave the employee over and walk away when I see she's on her way. As I'm walking away, I hear the wife whispering, "She doesn't work here, honey," to her husband. Emphasis on whispering so it doesn't seem he was hard of hearing or anything. And this time, miraculously, he seems to hear the actual words spoken to him. "Of course she does," he responds. Then to me, "Hey, you work here, right?" I took a bite of my apple and turned back and shake my head. It's rude to speak with your mouth full, plus whatever I said, he probably would have heard "yes." He does understand the head shake, though, and look bewildered. As the employee reaches them and asks how she can help them, he whispers to his wife, "How did you know?" I had to shake my head while getting my bread, and on the way home, I felt bad for the wife. Sure, he actually listened to what she said, but he also dismissed it and immediately tried to prove her wrong. And she looked at me with the resigned look like it happened all the time. Then again, she did take him with her shopping, so maybe she enjoyed watching him embarrass himself. And this story is posted by u/shell switch, mistaken for a caterer at my own wedding party. My wedding party was very informal. We wore sports jerseys. A lot of family and friends of family came, including a batch of people that I didn't even know, which got a little weird because we still only personally invited everyone and told everyone to let us know if they had a +1 and it would be fine for us to invite them. This is so we could track catering expenses and space concerns. It was a rough day, and I was very limited in support and was taking care of most setup and issues myself in a party of roughly 80 people. It felt more like work than a party. The time finally came where I could rest when issues were taken care of. About halfway through the party, the sun was beginning to set. I sat down in a corner, wiped the sweat off my face, and looked over at the food. Everyone had eaten except me, so I was ready to finally dive into the food I paid for. Some woman I'd never met in her late 20s asked me to bring a plate for her kids. Me, "I'm sorry, ma'am. I want to bring some stuff for my wife and start eating myself." Lady, oh, caterers can bring their family to events like this? Me, somewhat confused at her response. The caterers here are a family business, so sort of. Lady, isn't it inappropriate for you to eat food someone else paid for? Me, confused even further, but giving a chuckle. I paid for it. I'm sorry, who did you come here with? Lady, oh really? You must be the party planner. Are you a friend of the groom's? I was invited by the groom. I'm F. Me, chuckling again. No, I'm the groom. Lady, oh, I'm sorry. How embarrassing. You're the groom? Hey, nice to meet you. Me, I sent invitations by name, but we also requested feedback for the plus invitations. I don't believe I sent you an invitation. I think everyone invited more people than we initially wanted. Lady, uh-oh. Am I and my kids okay to be here? I'm actually sister's friend's friend. They said it was okay. Me. Oh, yes, that would be perfectly fine. We have much more food than I had thought. It won't be an issue. Nice to meet you. I came to the table with my wife and her grandmother, and we finally ate. My wife to me. Dang, girl, you flirting with all the ladies at our wedding party, or what? I know that a plus one of a plus one that was uninvited is generally uncool, but there was no need to stress it. Everyone had a good time, and there was actually too much food. That is so funny. Lying and getting caught right there on the spot. Oh, I was invited by the groom. Oh, I'm the groom. I don't recall sending you an invitation. That was so funny, but I'm glad he had a great attitude. Wedding day, enjoying it, living life to the fullest. So, terrific story. And this next story is called At Least I Got Tipped. So, this happened a few years ago, and I'll put the context in where you need it so you can understand why things had played out the way they did. One major thing to know is the town I live in. While having a fairly large population, has a very close-knit communities, and so it falls into an everybody knows everybody kind of classification. Also to note is where this happened. I had worked prior to the incident, but had not worked there for 3 years prior. Myself and two of my coworkers had just gotten off shift at the bar we worked at. Like I said, close communities. A couple of the patrons asked if we wanted to go to Big Berry's, not the actual name, which was another bar, to wind down from our evening. We were all happy to. I was DD, Harry, and Tracy, not real names. Both stayed with me over weekends to make the commute to and from work less of a hassle. So we decided to go. While our bar had wound down significantly enough that they could close our section, Big Berries was pandemonium and still crankingly busy. Now, obviously, because of working there previously, the manager knows me well and adores me, and the boss knows me too. But him, I never talked to. All three of us were still in uniform, which comprised of various alcohol branded shirts. I was wearing a Jägermeister tank that I had gotten from doing promos. I think this played a part in what happened. We went to the bar to grab our drinks and head outside onto the deck to sit and have a smoke and wind down. As I was walking with drink in hand past the high tables that guarded the entrance to the deck, I felt a hand wrap around my arm and quite viciously yank me towards a table. Now, since leaving this bar, I had developed quite the attitude, and since I didn't work there, I was ready to lay all kinds of profanity on the man who had been so rough to me, until I looked up and noticed who he was and who he was sitting with. We'll call him Mr. Beck, and he's a big tipper and a high roller with shady history and business dealings. I remembered him well from when I did work there, but hadn't seen him since I quit. I had also lost a significant amount of weight and looked pretty different to how I did. Mr. Beck was sitting with the owner who knew I didn't work for them and started spouting orders for drinks and shooters before I could ask why he was intruding on my night. I looked at the owner, who gave me a pleading look as he obviously wanted to impress the man. In my mind, I thought there'd be no harm in telling the manager the drink order and going about my business. So I did that and went to sit with my colleagues outside. Mr. Beck got his drinks, and all was good. I was finishing up my drink when the man came outside to have a smoke. He looked shocked to see me sitting outside drinking instead of working, and must have said something to the owner because it took a few minutes before he was at the table. OP, you can't sit here like this. He thinks you're the waitress. Now, I'd already explained what happened to Tracy and Harry. And Tracy, who had zero filter, just pipes up and said, "She's a paying customer that doesn't work for you. Why is it such an issue to just tell your friend that?" Loud enough for Mr. Beck and half of my town to probably hear. He never answered that question, but I feel like he was desperate to make a good impression. I was getting up to get drinks anyway and decided, let me just slap them on the owner's tab while I waitress for them. So this happened for 1 or 2 rounds, and the owner had apparently told Mr. Beck I was technically off shift, but would serve them when they asked. And I did, because I got free booze. About 2 hours later, we decided it was time to go, and I went to say goodbye. It was all pleasant. I was thanked for my service, I laughed, and walked to my car. Just as I was about to get into it, I heard my name being called and saw Mr. Beck hurrying to me. He handed me a nice roll of money that amounted to 1/4 of my rent for the month, which isn't a lot by American standards, maybe like $60 with current exchange rates, and thanked me again, to which Harry and Tracy started laughing. When he asked what was so funny, they happily told him the truth, that I didn't work there and I was pretty much doing a favor for the owner by pretending I did and serving them. He slapped another $50 equivalent into my hand and laughed about it. I got a free meal from the owner a week later, and Mr. Beck started to become a regular at the bar I currently work at that had a soft spot for myself, Tracy, and Harry. So, in the end, it all's well that ends well. This has been TNA Top Notch Audio. 3 great funny stories. And my question to you is, which one of these stories are your favorites and why? Share your comments below, and also don't forget to subscribe so you can get notification of more videos in the future. Have yourselves a great day.